Steve, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. How was your break, and how much of a break does a non-league manager actually get?
Yeah, not much of a break. Funnily enough, it's normally you're busy. You're very, very busy for a couple of weeks after the season finished, because obviously it's about trying to retain the players that you want to keep. So that's where your work tends to go first of all. So that was quite busy, and then you have to probably leave them alone for a little bit till they made their decisions, which fortunately quite a few have made the decision we hoped they were going to. And then it's obviously we identify the positions we need, and then it's just phone call after phone call. Players, agents, other managers. It's a lot of hard work, and then just before you come back pre-season, it goes a little bit quiet again. And obviously now we're back training, and we're starting to look at a few. I expect the phone will start to pick up again within the next couple of weeks, maybe from players we've tried to get, maybe that haven't got in elsewhere. And so yeah, it's probably the time most managers don't particularly like. I can't stand it. But it is what it is. It's the same every year. You have to do what you've got to do. Sometimes they come through a little bit quicker, but it's part of the job. You've got to do it, and hopefully your hard work will pay off by the start of the season.
You're obviously well into pre-season training now. You're coming to the end of the second week. How's it all going? Happy with what you've seen so far?
Yes,
where the players are at?
Yeah, so I don't get overexcited about it. I didn't enjoy it as a player. I don't particularly enjoy it as a manager. But it's about getting the squad ready for the start of the season. Unfortunately we did lose a couple that we weren't expecting to. There was one or two we knew we'd lose, which is fine. There was a couple that come out of the blue fairly last minute as well. So that means we've had to start looking at a couple of other areas that we maybe wasn't expecting to. But along with the lads that have agreed to stay, we've got a couple that have coming in that have looked quite good so far in the sessions we've done. But we start our first game Saturday, and then we go into 3 or 4 games on the spin, and we'll make quite quick decisions on 1 or 2 of those. But I'd say potentially with the boys we're looking at in a minute, I'd like to think there may be 2 or 3 good signings coming out of that. And there's 1 or 2 others we're working on at the minute, as I mentioned before, that might take a little bit longer to come in. Potentially a couple of loans from pro clubs as well, and it's just making sure that we're ready for when it starts.
You've mentioned now, obviously you've got a few down on trial tonight. Something really good to see some of the under-23s involved as well. So as you've kind of just touched upon, you're kind of hopeful of getting a few new faces confirmed soon.
Yeah, it's the difficulty when you lose a couple quite that close to the start of it is they weren't specifically areas that we were looking to recruit in. So all of a sudden you've got to change your recruitment plans. And obviously the 2 that we didn't expect to lose were Leo and James Mansfield, that were very, very good for us last year. So we've had to start looking in different areas. But we started up at 23s last year for a reason, trying to create a pathway through for the lads that were coming through from Ryship Rangers through to the 23s, and we're adding the 18s to that this year as well. And we want to look at 4 or 5 of them pre-season in games. Will they all be ready? No, they won't. Potentially 1 or 2 of them might be ready, even if that's in the squad to begin with. So that there could be some opportunities there, but they'll get an opportunity pre-season. It's down to them to take that. And there are others, as you can see now, that are coming down that maybe wouldn't have come down before until those positions come available. But we still do need a little bit of maybe experience in a couple of those areas as well. It's all very nice that we want to bring young lads in, and probably, as you can see, most of the lads here tonight are probably early 20s. But I still think at times we lacked a bit of experience last year in certain areas, and that's something that we are trying to address this year as well. Obviously, Preds gives us a lot of experience at the back, but then if you look around the rest of the side, apart from Newey up top, we're a fairly young side, and I think at times that showed last year. It wasn't ever through want of effort or desire or ability, but sometimes it's just that experience that some of the other sides had over us. So, as well as having a good young side that has got plenty of energy and work rate, we just maybe need a little bit more know-how a lot, but they're a little bit harder to get than the youngsters coming in, unfortunately.
We have had one obviously new face definitely confirmed. Great has signed and is here tonight. You know, for those that don't know much about him or may not have seen obviously what we put online, etc., can you just tell people a bit about him, what he's been through in the last year or two, and obviously where he's at the moment?
He's been unfortunate. Obviously, most of us have lost a lot of football in the last couple of years because of COVID. But previous to that, he'd had a really good season. I think the year before at South Park, scored loads of goals. And Then I think he went to Leatherhead after that, and start last year he signed at Chesham, and unfortunately did his ACL. But I think it was wrongly diagnosed to begin with, from what he was telling me. So he didn't actually have his reconstruction till January. So he's a little bit further behind than he would have liked. But we'd like to think by August he shouldn't be a million miles off. I mean, he's a fit lad anyway. But it'll give us something up front that's very different to what we had last year. Obviously, we know what Yui does. He scores goals for fun, and I know he'll do that again next year. He's worth his weight in gold to us. But I think there's certain games where we maybe want to look at playing two up front rather than maybe a 4-3-3, maybe play a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2, whatever system that may be. And sometimes teams played a different system last year that we struggled to break down when teams sat quite deep on us. So he'll give us a lot of pace, but he'll also give us a lot of physicality up there as well. And hopefully he'll come through the next few weeks of training and he'll be up to speed. Hopefully, even if it's not the start of the season, I don't think it'll be too long off. So he was one we was interested in last year, but unfortunately that's when he got injured. So he's certainly one I'm looking excited to getting him fully fit and getting up to speed. And I think if he can deliver anything near what we know he's got, I think he could be a big player for us next year.
Going back to pre-season a little bit, you hear, obviously, I don't know how much this happens at non-league level, but you hear kind of about when players come back from their break of fines and forfeits for players that have enjoyed their time off a little bit too much. Does that kind of thing happen here in any non-league? You know, how do you monitor the players after a few months off when they come back?
It would have been when I played. It was a badge of honour to come back about a stone and a half overweight, which I probably did most years, to be fair. To be fair, they look after themselves completely different nowadays. I think in all my time here, certainly in the last 3 or 4 years when we come back to pre-season, I've not seen any player that's returned actually struggle, unless it's someone coming back from an injury fitness-wise. I think it's a very different era nowadays, I think, because of social media. Players are a lot more conscious on what they look like for a start. So they go to the gym a lot more, they go out running, they look after themselves, which is good for football because their fitness levels are good. But compared to when I think back to pre-seasons 20 years ago, it's a world apart. And if someone comes in now that's not fit, they stand out a mile. And unless there was someone come back from a long-term injury, I wouldn't even entertain it. We've had a couple over the last year or so that have come in, and one lad that came in and trained last week, you could see straight away he was off it. And if you're not going to come in here but at least be fit, you're not going to have any chance. The one thing we were last year, I think we was probably as fit as anyone we played against. We never got outrun, we never got outworked. And that's something that I want to continue again this year. And the only thing we said to the boys when they went away, if you come back, you've got to come back fit. And they have really. So if there had been any fines based on that, we wouldn't have had much money, put it that way, because the fitness levels have looked good so far.
Well, speaking of fines, obviously Ant O'Connor has departed. I know he was the debt collector, so to speak, and obviously those that were looking to get out of fines, Ant brought a card machine along. So as a new debt collector, has someone taken on his role? Has the card machine gone missing, or?
Well, I think he's taken the card machine with him, but it was between him and Preds. I think Preds was the enforcer, Ant was more the accountant, I think. Could we trust Preds to do both? I would say no. He might turn up in a brand new BMW. I don't know, but I'm sure that there's always someone who want to do it. And
another vacancy that needs to be filled.
Yeah, we've got a physio to fill and about 5 players. So hopefully within one of those there might be someone that can control the fines. But no, listen, every club has to have that. That's part of what the boys do themselves, and it gets a good bit of crack and banter going in the changing room, and it does add a little bit of discipline as well. It's only so much as a manager you can do, and sometimes they have to self-discipline themselves. And to be fair, I think they probably got to find more through the lads than they would have through me anyway. So I'm sure there'll be someone to do it.
Finally, obviously, Borough finished 14th last season. What are the main areas? I mean, have you reviewed last season? Obviously, I know in interviews with us you thought that was about right. Maybe could have finished a place or two higher. What are the areas you're looking to improve on this year, and do you think you could potentially finish a few places higher?
Yeah, I think. I mean, ultimately we finished just below mid-table from a points perspective. There's 2 ways of looking at it. If you base the league on budget, we punch well above, because I'm pretty sure our budget will probably be in bottom 3. So we've achieved well on that, because I think if you look at any league at any level, you probably won't be a million miles off where your budget should be. So if you budget above that, you've done well. Could we have finished higher? Yeah, I think we could have, but probably anyone that finishes mid-table will probably say the same thing. You look back at certain games and think, could have won this, could have won that. Walton at home, Merthyr at home, Kings Langley. You look at certain games, but in fairness, there was probably a couple of other games where we were probably lucky to get anything and we ended up winning them. So ultimately, the league don't lie, you are where you are. I think the league, with who's gone out of the league last year and who's come into it, I think it might be a little bit more of a level playing field overall. I'd still expect the likes of Hayes and Yeading and Western to certainly be the two that are pushing up there, and I don't think Paul and one or two others will be a million miles behind them. And then you start looking around, you think, well, where you finished last year, if you can add maybe another 6 or 7 wins to that, you're knocking on the doors of a playoff. So I think potentially there'll be a lot of teams saying the same thing. On the flip side of it, it's 4 go down this year, so you've got to be very careful looking over your shoulder at that. But I wouldn't go into a season with that kind of negativity. It's I thought overall we had a very steady league campaign last year, brilliant cup run with great memories, and it's something that you come back and you want to improve on. Every player I've tried to sign or every player I've tried to re-sign, the conversation has been, we want to push on for next year. We want to push on, and I want to get as near to the playoffs, ideally in it, as we can. It'll be tough. It's tough every single year, but the last full season we had in the league, I think we missed out by 6 points. And I still say to this day, if we hadn't lost Dylan Kearney to Sutton that year, I think we would have got in it. But as I said, there'll be quite a few sides saying a similar thing, and my job is to make sure that recruitment's right and we get enough on board to give us a chance of doing that. So it'll be difficult. But we're not a million miles off where I hope we're going to be. But it'll be a tough season, but it's certainly one that we're looking forward to.
So, pre-season officially starts on Saturday. All of our games, obviously with pitch work at the Rogers Family Stadium, is all of our pre-season games are away. Start at London Colney on Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Yeah. Good luck, and hoping availability-wise, a few players going to be back from their holidays, or is it pretty much the players that are here tonight?
Yeah, we've got 1 or 2 that should be back. I think are back for Thursday. A couple are still away. It's not ideal because you'd like everyone to be available every game, but you're always going to have 1 or 2 that maybe because of work or family have to take slightly later day with holiday, which is fine. I get that. It's not the end of the world as long as they're ready to go by the time the season starts. We'll use the first 2 or 3 games to look at a lot of the boys that you can see training at the minute, because ultimately some of them will look quite good in training. 1 or 2 might have not looked as good in training, but might look really good in games. The ones that have been good in training might not look very good in the game. So until you listen, there's 1 or 2 you could tell straight away in training, but majority until you actually put them in a game situation, you'll know probably quite quickly if they're going to be up for it, or if you want to look at them in a couple more games. Hopefully you get a couple of nice surprises that we had last year, with the likes of Samuel coming in last year, James Mansfield, to name a couple who come in and did very, very well. But it's our job, if we think we've got 1 or 2 that look like they've got potential, is to spend a little bit of time working with them for the whole of pre-season and seeing if we can get them ready to be good enough to play step 3 on a regular basis. So yeah, the first couple of weeks, it's a bit of a frustrating time. It's an exercise you just have to do, and the results in the games aren't really that important. Performances of your regulars are important, that they just start stepping up in each game. But I've yet to be at a club where halfway through the season anyone goes back and talks about pre-season and didn't we play well then, or that was awful. Last year our pre-season was the worst you'll ever see. So we certainly can't get any worse than that. That's certainly from a positive point of view. But it's an opportunity for some of them to show us what they're about. We had a feing recommended, and we'll see hopefully Saturday and next Tuesday what they're about. Some of them will still be here, some of them won't be here, and we'll just need to up it as the games go on and make sure we're ready for the start of the season.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks for your time. Good luck for Saturday, the rest of pre-season, and obviously we'll see you for the start of the league season, first weekend in August.
Cheers, James.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, Andrew. Thanks.